It was a freezing winter morning in Seattle, the kind where the sky feels heavy with unshed snow and the streets are wrapped in silence. Inside a tiny, dimly lit apartment on the edge of the city, Emily Carter sat on the worn-out couch, clutching her chest as she struggled to breathe. Her cheeks were pale, and dark circles framed her once bright blue eyes. Emily was 27 years old, a single mother, and the mother of 2-year-old twins, Noah and Lily. Life hadn't been kind to her. Just 8 months ago, she lost her husband, Daniel, in a tragic car accident. Since then, Emily had been working 2 jobs, one as a waitress in a local diner and another as a nighttime cleaner, just to keep food on the table for her children. But exhaustion had taken its toll. Emily hadn't eaten properly in days, her blood pressure had been dangerously low, and the stress of overdue bills weighed heavily on her frail body. That morning, as the twins played on the floor with their worn-out stuffed animals, Emily collapsed, unconscious. Noah and Lily were too young to understand what was happening. At first, they thought Mommy was playing sleep, but when she didn't respond to their tiny hands tugging at her sweater, panic set in. Noah, somehow remembering what Emily had once told him, if Mommy falls down, call for help, grabbed her phone. With trembling little fingers, he pressed random numbers. On the other end, the call connected to a man sitting in a glass skyscraper in downtown Seattle. That man was Alexander Grant, one of the most influential tech billionaires in America. At 41, Alexander was known for his relentless ambition, his billion-dollar empire, and his reputation for being cold and distant. His days were packed with meetings, investment pitches, and back-to-back conference calls. But that morning, fate intervened. When Alexander's phone rang from an unknown number, he almost declined it, but some quiet intuition, made him answer. "Hello?" he said sharply. A tiny, trembling voice whispered, "Please, help Mommy, she's sleeping, won't wake up." There was a pause. Alexander blinked, stunned, his heart tightening in a way he hadn't felt in years. "Who is this? Where are you?" he asked softly. "Mommy fell, come help," little Lily cried in the background. In that moment, Alexander made a decision that would change his life forever. He hung up, traced the location of the call through his private security system, and within minutes, he was in his black SUV, racing across the city with his driver. When Alexander arrived, the neighborhood shocked him, a crumbling block of aging apartment complexes, cracked pavements, and flickering streetlights. He expected chaos, but instead, there was silence. As he climbed the stairs, the sound of faint cries led him to a door slightly ajar. Inside, the air was cold. The twins sat huddled together, tears streaking their tiny faces, holding their mother's limp hand. Without a second thought, Alexander knelt beside Emily, checked her pulse, and called his private medical team. "Hang on, you're going to be okay," he murmured, not realizing that his voice trembled as he said it. Within minutes, Emily was rushed to a private hospital, Alexander's hospital. While doctors worked frantically to stabilize her, Alexander stayed in the hallway, watching over the twins, who clung to his tailored suit like he was the only safe thing in the world. For the first time in his life, the billionaire who once prided himself on keeping emotions at bay felt something shift inside him. As Alexander waited, memories he had long buried came rushing back. 25 years ago, he had been Noah's age when his own mother collapsed in their tiny Brooklyn apartment. No one came for them. No billionaire answered his cries for help. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Alexander had built his empire partly from that pain, vowing never to be helpless again, never to depend on anyone. But now, standing in the hospital corridor, looking at these fragile children, he realized something he hadn't in decades: money could build walls, but it couldn't replace love, compassion, or human connection. Hours later, Emily opened her eyes to a bright hospital room. She blinked, confused, as Noah and Lily clung to her, sobbing, "Mommy. You're okay," Alexander said softly from the corner, his voice calm, almost warm. She stared at him, bewildered. Who are you?" He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Just someone who answered the right call. Emily burst into tears, part relief, part disbelief. But Alexander wasn't finished. After the doctors explained that Emily had suffered severe exhaustion and malnutrition, Alexander made a decision that stunned everyone. He arranged for all of Emily's medical bills to be covered. He hired a nutritionist, a caretaker for the twins, and moved the little family into a safe, comfortable apartment, fully paid for. But Emily, proud and independent, protested through her tears. I can't accept all this. I can't repay you." Alexander looked at her, his expression soft but firm. "You already have," he said quietly. "You reminded me what matters most." Over the next few weeks, something extraordinary happened. Alexander, the man who once avoided personal connections, began visiting the twins almost daily. He brought them toys, read them bedtime stories, and laughed more than he had in years. And Emily, though hesitant at first, began to open up. She told him about Daniel, about her struggles, about the nights she cried quietly so her children wouldn't hear. Alexander listened, really listened, as though every word mattered. Through helping Emily's family, Alexander discovered a part of himself he thought was lost forever, the ability to care. Months later, Alexander revealed something Emily never expected. He had decided to launch a massive philanthropic initiative aimed at helping struggling single mothers across the country. He named it the Daniel Project, in honor of Emily's late husband. At the launch event, Alexander stood on stage, holding Noah and Lily's tiny hands, and said to a crowd of journalists and cameras, "Sometimes, the smallest voices lead us to our greatest purpose." A random phone call saved not just a life, it saved mine too. The audience erupted in applause, tears streaming down faces across the room. A year later, Emily was thriving. She had gone back to school, working part-time at a local library while spending evenings with her children. Noah and Lily were healthy, happy, and endlessly giggling. Alexander remained a constant in their lives. Not because of guilt or obligation, but because he had found a family he never knew he needed. On the twins' third birthday, Alexander whispered as he handed them a gift. "You saved your mommy that day, but you also saved me." Emily, her voice trembling, replied. "And you showed us that miracles aren't about chance, they're about people choosing to care." As balloons floated into the sky and laughter filled the air, one thing became clear: sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with the smallest, most accidental actions. This wasn't just a story about a billionaire saving a struggling mother. It was about the power of compassion, the way one act of kindness can change not just one life, but many. Sometimes, hope comes from the most unexpected places. Even from a random phone call made by tiny hands. And that day, 3 lives, and perhaps thousands more, were forever transformed.